Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. If you would like to support this channel, please hit the like button and consider subscribing if you enjoy the content. And now, let's start with the first story. It's called Dave. A couple of years ago, I was working temp services as a PC tech and got assigned to a company for what was supposed to be a couple of days, but got extended to a couple of months. The first day I walked in, I noticed that one of the empty desks had a huge pile of broken laptops behind the chair. Every couple of days, one of my fellow techs would walk past and put another broken laptop on top. I finally asked one of them why they were doing that. That's when I was told that the desk belonged to Dave, one of the shift supervisors. He had put a rule in place that nobody was allowed to recycle a broken laptop other than himself. We could recycle parts, but not the whole thing. Apparently he had gotten in trouble in the past because one of the techs accidentally recycled a computer that was supposed to be held onto, and he decided that only he could recycle them. Well, Dave got seriously sick and was out on medical leave for several months. And since he was the only one authorized to recycle the computers, the other techs just piled the broken systems up behind his desk. After the first pile got to about 6 feet tall, they started a second pile, and so on. Well, as his leave extended from 1 month to several months, the guys started leaving post-it notes on the pile. First it was little snarky stuff like, "If Dave can't recycle these, no one can." Then it later turned to stuff like, "I miss Dave. We all miss Dave. I hope Dave comes back soon." The pile eventually became a shrine to Dave. Dave finally comes back and sees the 3 huge piles of broken laptops. At first he is mad. Then as he's going through them, he starts seeing the notes and alternates between laughing and sniffing. I know it took him 3 days to clear them all out, but I don't know what happened after that because my contract was over. The next story is called $20 and Change. Before I retired, I drove a cab for a couple of years. Amazing how many people paid in pennies. It was the first of the month and I got a call to pick up at Walmart and take the fare to the projects. Got them and processed their rider discount card and proceeded to take them home. It was grocery day and so the trunk was full. We get to their townhouse and they go to pay. The fare was around $12 and they give me a 50. If you ever ridden a cab, you know there's a sign that says, "Driver only carries X amount of dollars of change." Ours at the time was $20. I happened to be prepared for this situation. I asked if they had anything smaller and they said they didn't. So I pointed out the sign, said I could make change and reached into my briefcase and pulled out $30 in wrapped dimes. Proceeded to hand them that, along with a 5 and 3 ones. The husband was taken aback by this. "What the heck is this?" "Your change, sir. You are lucky I had those dimes, wrapped and ready because I was almost cleaned out by the last fare. I ain't accepting all those dimes." "Well, the only alternative is to make a trip to our office on Monday and pick up your change, because just like you only have a 50, I only have these dimes." He realized that it would cost him another 5 to go to the office and he'd have to wait until Monday to do. He finally accepted, but was far from happy. Left them and got on the radio and told the dispatcher I was coming into the office as I didn't want that big bill in the cab. They okayed it, and when I told them how I gave change, they laughed hard. A couple of months later I had the same run, and, funny, they had the exact change that time. The third story is called Paying in Pennies. Ages ago, I worked a frontline job at City Hall, registering cars and dogs and collecting money for parking tickets, property taxes and the like. So a basic entry-level municipal finance grant, bottom of the food chain. Nowhere close to being the one making the ordinances or rules, etc. This was before the days of taking credit cards and debit cards for such payments, before smartphones, and before the online banking world really began. Ages ago. Paper, paper, paper. The city's ordinance on tax interest stated that interest would accrue daily against any past due tax bill at a rate of X% per annum. Property taxes were due quarterly. Many people would come in to pay cash on the tax due date. Many would remit their payment by checks through the mail. We kept extremely thorough paper records of all payments received through the mail. We would retain the remittance stub and the envelope bearing the postmark, which was the date we would use to calculate any interest if it arrived past the due date. If the postmark was before or on the due date, no interest was charged. These were batched daily by each clerk and filed by date in our vault, so anyone who needed to could find any receipt and remittance fairly quickly. We needed to, often, as did the city auditor. Anyway, business as usual, and a few days following the tax due, we would always get a few stragglers through the mail, and the daily interest would have started adding up. Not by a lot. For most homeowners, this would amount to just a few cents a day. We would send them a receipt in the mail with a note that they have a small balance now due to accrued interest, but we would hold it at the amount for 10 days. Most people would just send another check. Some would ignore it, and others would come in to pay in person. Finally, the stars aligned. I got one, a real peach of a gentleman who was extremely disgruntled that he got a bill in the mail for this interest BS, which he slapped down on the counter inches from my face. He then stamped a repurposed bottle full of pennies down on top of the paper and said, "I hope whoever sent me this bill has to count these pennies." He was at top volume for all of the city halls to hear. I could tell already that it was mine. I saw my initials on the receipt when he slapped it down. Q. Malicious Compliance. I smiled as big as I could, said I would find out who had processed it, and took his receipt to the vault. I didn't even give him enough time to react. I just got up and went to the vault while cheerfully saying, "It will just be a minute," before disappearing from his sight. I found the paperwork, including his 2 days late postmarked envelope. Then I sat down at my desk, took the bottle and looked him in the eye. "You are in luck today, sir. I am the one who sent this balance due to you, so I will be able to count these pennies for you." And I did. I counted all 39 of those pennies, and I counted them one by one, very thoroughly. It took him about 20 minutes to pay his 39 cents from the minute that bottle hit the counter to the end of it. I was extremely pleasant and cordial and smiling at him the entire time. It was just fun at that point, so I kept pouring it on. Just so sweet. His face was practically purple by the end, and he slunk out the door without the smug satisfaction he was expecting when he slammed that bottle on my counter. I said, "Have a great rest of your day. Weather is beautiful." And it was. The last story is called Project Engineers. About 6 years ago, I worked for a power supply company in the UK. I worked in a small project team that coordinated all the company's major infrastructure projects. The role required me to travel to meetings all over the country. We'd average around 800 miles a week in company miles over the year, depending on the time of year and location of projects, etc. Someone in the finance department had reviewed our expense claims and calculated that over 1/4 we'd not covered the required number of company miles to meet the company's policy on company cars. For that 1/4, without looking at any other data, we lost our company's car entitlement, and the company told us we had to return to the fleet company at the end of their leases. Malicious Compliance activated. As we were project engineers, we had a very particular set of skills for knowing how to follow rules to the letter, and how to do so in a manner that benefited the company or project or individuals. Usually, if it benefited the company, it benefited all involved. This was not one of those occasions. We pay benefit in kind tax on our company cars in the UK. The rules around this change as and when the government feels like it. My team had all carefully chosen cars to be zero cost to ourselves by choosing cars that were below the allowance of £300 per month. So the remaining allowance covered the tax obligation. We'd all be screwed by the benefit in kind tax changes that year and were now paying tax. We reviewed the company car policy and found that the company had no way of stopping us from handing our cars back with immediate effect. The company was still responsible for the leases. So we all made arrangements for personal cars and handed our keys over at the next team meeting. We also reviewed the company travel policy. We started using hire cars and trains for traveling, as none of us were willing to use our personal cars and claim the 50 pence per mile. Trains and hire cars in the UK are not cheap. Usually we'd work a long day and book a bit of overtime or lieu to drive to and from meetings without staying over, as we would prefer to be at home even if it meant getting home late. That stopped with immediate effect. We'd only work the mandated 7.5-hour day, then stop, book into our hotel and take full advantage of the £25 food and drink allowance for dinner. Then work from home the following day, as we'd been away from home the previous day, as per the policy. After about 8 weeks, we were called into a meeting with our line manager and department manager about our expenses. Our expenses for the first month after the cars had been returned were more than they were for the previous 12 months combined. Our line manager agreed that our expenses were in line with the policy. Otherwise, he wouldn't have signed them off. The department manager told us we were getting company cars back, and he expected the expenses to return to previous levels. We declined the offer of company cars and let management know we'd be adhering to the travel policy to the letter. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and want to support me, please subscribe and hit the like button. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.